Welcome back to the Today with Tally podcast, folks. We have a great show in store for you today. We sit down with Aurora, Colorado resident Cindy Romero, who, if you remember, went viral with her video that she put out of the transnational criminal organization Tren de Aragua when they were coming up and down her stairwells in her apartment complex with AR-15s and pistols, looking for some of the residents that were living in her apartment complex. And with that, we welcome Cindy Romero to the program. How are you, ma'am?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing all right. You know, we got a couple days here into the most important election in our nation's history, and man, you know, it's like it's almost like a kid, you know, counting down the final days of Christmas.
Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait to see the results. I got my voting done about a week ago, and I'm hoping for the best.
Yes, ma'am. Now, Cindy, thank you so much for joining me today. First of all, I know, you know, doing interviews like this probably isn't the easiest thing for you to do, but you've agreed to sit down with me, and I sincerely appreciate that. And I want to help inform and educate the general public and the whole entire country, not just the folks in Colorado or in Aurora. Your videos went viral several months back that showed this transnational criminal organization working within your apartment complex in Aurora, Colorado, that showed these gang members, TDA gang members, coming up and down the stairwells there with AR-15s, and basically knocking on people's doors, perhaps intimidating some of the residents that were living within this apartment complex. And you caught it all on video. Describe, what was that like when you called for help and you put that video out to the public?
I've been recording these people for like a year, and I've been submitting videos to Aurora Police Department for about the last 8 months or so. I know that they were compiling evidence. So when this happened, I was already on alert because we had seen the guns being moved at 7 o'clock that morning. And the police had called me back and said they weren't going to come because there was an ongoing investigation they didn't want to interfere with. So we were waiting all day for something to happen. We knew something was going to happen. So I was sitting 4 feet inside that door when the people came up the stairs. I got the motion detector alert on my phone. I opened up the video, and I was watching it live as it was happening, while the other camera was recording it. So I had the ability to screen capture live video while I was watching. So not only was I able to catch that famous video, the one that it went viral, but I was also able to catch screen captures of those same people holding my neighbors at gunpoint. And it was terrifying. And so immediately, as soon as I seen the people with guns, I stopped taking screen captures after I see them holding my neighbors at gunpoint, and I start calling the police. I'm still on hold with the police when gunfire breaks out. There's between 20 and 35 shots. We heard a bunch of yelling outside. Someone say, "Shut your mouth," in Spanish. And then all kinds of different calibers of guns started going off. Then we went to bed later that night. Once the police showed up, we went to bed. We had to work the next morning. When we came out the next morning, the police had the whole block blocked off. And they were still doing crime scene investigations. So they were collecting all the shell casings, and we found out that my car had a hole through it, and my husband's car has a hole in it. After they collected all the gun shells and they followed where they went, the police were able to discover a trail of blood. And it turns out the victim had transported to the hospital, and they ended up dying a week later. The police then used more of my video to help identify him because, like I said, I had a year's worth of video of this property. And so I had videos of these people walking around the property without masks. Their faces were covered in the famous video, but I had months worth of video of them walking around normal. This shouldn't happen to anybody. And they were intimidating people out of their property like it was the most normal thing. And we watched them go door to door in our building until we were the last leaseholders in the building. So to say that gangs weren't taking over the buildings is ridiculous. They took them over. They took the apartment buildings over. They changed the locks on the outsides of the buildings so they weren't accessible by the owners or emergency personnel. You would have to knock on a window to get into the building, especially the building where they kept the guns. And all this was reported to the police. And then we find out that the police have known about this problem for nearly a year. And
so has Aurora PD been absolutely complacent throughout this last year?
I can't say they've been complacent. I feel like they were, I can't prove that they were directed to stand down, but I feel like their hands were tied. I received several different responses from the police over the course of this year. I have over 100 calls to 911, witnesses to all these different crimes over the last year. And then that's not counting all the noise disturbances and the destruction of property. And I was standing in my neighbor's apartment when someone walked in and stole her air conditioner and walked out with it. 2 other guys walked in and stole her couch. There's just nothing you can do about it. You can't stop it. The police can't be there every second. And even if they were, they would be overwhelmed. They were directed to only report if they had 4 or 3 to 4 officers and an armed car. The people over there were vicious. They would sit in the stairwell with their guns, and you would have to wait for them to move their guns and get out of your way before you could walk up the stairs with your groceries. There was a lot of intimidation and asking, are you going to move? If you do move, can I get your keys? So they wouldn't have to bother kicking in the door. I have so many videos of them kicking in doors and then showing the apartments like they're real estate agents.
Unreal. So they were basically releasing out these apartment complexes to other folks that were coming in because they had basically taken them completely over. The apartment complex was under siege, if you will.
Yes.
Now, so this gang, this transnational criminal organization by the name of Tren de Aragua, has came in and has made a significant impact, not only in Aurora, but from sea to shining sea in the United States of America. How do you feel, Cindy, having these videos that went viral that showed this international gang here on American soil causing and disrupting harm and harassment and even death to some of those folks in that apartment complex? How do you feel knowing that you videoed something that could sway the most important election in our nation's 248-year history?
I'm amazed. I'm disgusted. I'm appalled that this could happen. A big part of my disgust is if they would have helped me in the beginning when I was begging and reaching out for help, it wouldn't have become what it has become. But because of the denial and gaslighting and constant ignoring the problem by the left, it has made it to where it is such an issue. And so much information has come to light about it, about its appearance all over the country, its appearance overseas, its appearance. And I literally cry for the victims because I got out. I was able to get out thanks to the help of Councilwoman Danielle Jerensky and John Fabbricatore. I was able to get out, but there are so many people that still are being harassed by this gang, that still don't know what's coming for them, that still see this video and are not prepared. And I fear for those people. And my children still live in Aurora, and I talked them into moving there. And who would I be if I just let this go on and don't ever say anything about it? Someone has to speak up. And if it's got to be me, then it's got to be me.
Hey, Brian Talley here with the Today with Talley podcast. Are you looking to advertise with the podcaster? Why not be me? We will help take your business to the next level, folks. It's easy to do. All you got to do is go to briantalley.com. That's briantalley.com. We have 3 packages. We work with any budget, folks. We have the bronze, the silver, and the gold packages to work with you. We work with any budget. If you want to be a show sponsor, contact me, briantalley.com. I look forward to working with you and your business. Now, back to the show. Right. No, you did the right thing here. You know, see something, say something.
Say something, right. It's a civic responsibility, I think. It's your duty as a taxpayer and as an American to take care of your neighbor. And that's what I feel like I'm doing. This isn't a racist bid. I don't have any problem with someone who wants to come into the country legally. But if you're coming in here illegally and your whole intention is to destroy and create these pockets and these cells of hoarding of guns and stuff to where you can take over areas of a building, even a building, how is that possible in the United States? I just don't understand.
I don't know. I couldn't walk into a Walmart and steal a Snickers bar without being arrested. But yet here you have hundreds of international gang members coming in and infiltrating a neighborhood and literally taking it over to where the police don't even really get involved. And if they do, they just say it's under investigation. Like that right there is a complete deflection tactic. Now, because this was transnational, and this has been exposed. Your video has exposed this all over the country, and it has started a conversation that has been going on for months now about our sovereignty and about the security in our nation, about the safety in our nation. What has your congressman done about this?
Nothing. I'm actually part of the neighborhood watch group in that area that I used to live in now. And we've contacted the congressman to try to get some kind of meeting with them. They actually finally agreed to a meeting with his area director and then some representative from the FBI, and they've agreed to meet with us November 11th or 12th.
Who is your congressman?
Jason Crow.
And how long has he been your congressman?
Too long.
So we have an international gang taking over apartment complexes in Aurora, Colorado. Mm-hmm. We have it all on film. It's been exposed all over the news media worldwide.
Yeah.
And your congressional representative didn't contact you to get a statement.
No one has contacted me from that side. And I was a lifelong Democrat. And that's what I don't understand. I even contacted the left media, and none of them contacted me back. The only help I got was from Fox 31. Vicente was able to, we were able to discuss what was going on there, and he connected me with Councilwoman Danielle Jurinsky, who already knew what was going on and was asking questions about this gang. I fear that it's too late now. You can't close the barn door once the horse has gone out. So now people have to prepare themselves. They don't know how many are here. The police arrested a whole bunch of them right after my video went viral. And now they're just saying that it's too hard to identify them. And the rest are trickling in.
Yeah, they don't have faces. They don't have names. They don't have IDs that
match
who they are.
No, they're ghosts.
Yeah,
they're ghosts. No, and if they do commit a crime, once they're back out on the street, they just become somebody else.
Right.
Yes. And they
Now,
share papers and use each other's papers, so you have no idea who they are.
so I have a question for you. How long have you lived in these apartments in Aurora?
I was there for 4 years.
Now, in the 4 years, when did you begin to notice a change was happening with this transnational gang that was coming in?
Probably about a year and a half ago, my neighbors started to become overwhelmingly Venezuelan. Just there were more Venezuelans than ever in my apartments.
How did they treat you? How did they treat you at the time?
That fine. Yeah, we they did their thing. We did ours. There weren't a lot of problems with them. It was this last 8 months or so, 8 months to a year, that it got really, really bad. And the police stopped coming when you called, or they would call me back from a restricted number and they would say they weren't coming. And like I said, they were off. At first they were like, well, do you ever think about moving? And then after that, it was, we're sorry, we can't do anything. Our hands are tied. And after that, well, we're going to form a task force. So don't worry, we're collecting evidence. And then after that, it was, you really should go to the media with this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a police officer telling me that in America, where I pay my taxes, where we support the police, where we fund the police and take care of our local police. I was being told that their hands were tied. How is that possible? I don't understand it. And then to have the pushback from the mayor and the governor to say that it's part of our imagination. I could have never imagined this in the U.S. ever.
And I heard just that come out of the governor's voice as well as the mayor. Now, do you feel, you keep referring yourself to, as an American taxpayer, and that you are. And I always speak on that because we are the folks in this country that contribute. Okay.
Yes.
And this is our country. And we, the people, should have that safety and that security to own a home, to rent a home, to live somewhere, and to know that if you need help, 911, it'll be there. But since 2020, we've defunded police. We have let dangerous criminals out of prison, and we have opened the floodgates to the United States of America to include the Venezuelan prisons being emptied and them coming to live with you.
Yeah.
Basically ended up directly on your doorstep. Now, people always say, oh, you won't get involved until it lands right on your doorstep. Well, it literally did. Yeah. You had something so powerful that you captured that ended up right on your doorstep that it could sway this election. Has President Trump reached out to you at all?
Yes, I was able to speak at his rally when he came to Aurora. I gave a little brief speech, and then when he spoke, he called me back on stage to speak with him, for him at the rally. And I was happy and anxious to give my support to him because he was the only one who admitted that there's a problem. And part of finding the solution to the problem is admitting that there's a problem. And I really just could not get anyone else to admit that something needed to be done before it's too late. And President Trump was right there, and he's like, you are brave, and I support you, and I believe you. And that just meant so much to me after being left alone in those apartments with the police already knowing that there were gang members there. And I was just left there alone to gather evidence. It was unreal. And my husband and I couldn't believe that it even happened. It's just so unbelievable that something like this could happen in America. I'm glad I released the videos. I'm glad. And I hope that every interview I have makes it harder for this gang to survive on American soil.
Yeah, we're talking as if we're living in a third world nation.
Yeah.
That's what we've become in the United States of America. I don't even recognize this country anymore. And I am 100% for legal immigration.
Yes, same.
I have no issues with that. As a matter of fact, some of the best Americans I know, became Americans through, 5 and 6 years of hard work and, civics classes and homework and, history and learning the language and writing and assimilating, right?
Yes.
Because it's basically like this, right? When you come into the United States, your duty is to assimilate. If you do not assimilate, that is an invasion.
They have no intention of assimilating. They, if anything, they are angry that we have what we have. And that's the feeling that I was getting from them, that they not only do they want everything that you're giving them, but they want what you have too. And I don't know if they're stockpiling it, buying more guns with it, sending it to their country or not. But these people were not there to be friendly. These people had a purpose, and they wanted those apartments, and they were going to do anything that it took to get them. And they wanted my apartment. So the threatening and the late night music and the intimidation and the arguments right outside our door, so we could never get any peace or ever be off edge, and we were always on high alert. I feel like all of this was a ploy. It was torture. Mm-hmm. It was the same 6 songs over and over again, so loud your floor shook. I lived on the 3rd floor, so I thought that I would be safely removed from a lot of it. And it wasn't until it crossed my doorstep that I believed that it could happen to me in America. So when I get this pushback online and stuff from people saying, oh, it's not true, it can't be true, I feel for them, because at once I couldn't see it either.
Yeah,
it wasn't that long ago where I wouldn't have believed it if you'd have told me.
Yeah, and see, that's the gaslighting that so many Americans, we've been gaslit in this country for such a long time. I mean, really since 2020, they've turned it up a notch, I'd say.
The media has definitely come out and gaslit a lot about this.
People are like, am I seeing this? Am I crazy? They have you questioning yourself.
Yes. Isolated.
Is it my problem? Is it my fault? Did I see this right? Or so immigration without assimilation is an invasion. That is exactly what has happened here. Now, I have one question for you. Is the Aurora PD compromised, in your opinion?
I believe upper leadership is compromised, yes. I believe the new chief isn't going to help the matters. It has to be above the new police chief, because the last police chief and the people above her, the last interim police chief, the people above her, they weren't doing what was right. You could tell that because of the little public relations thing that they did at the apartments.
Right. And I agree. There's no way that this could be happening in the United States of America and the PD stand down and literally watch this building literally get taken over by a transnational criminal organization from Venezuela. That doesn't make any sense at all to me. You have people moving out left and right. You probably were in fear for your life. The only thing that you had was these cameras, because if you didn't, everybody would be calling you a liar.
Mm-hmm. The first thing I did with my new apartment was install more cameras. And I encourage everybody, videotape everything, your cars, your parking lot, if you can, your way in and out of work, stay on live, anything you can do to prove it. Because even with video evidence, they're calling me a liar.
The corruption here is absolutely off the scales. I mean, this is something I've never seen or heard of before happening in our own country, let alone in Aurora. Okay, folks, over there off 12th and Dallas and the edge of Lowry apartment complex. I mean, come on. The reason why I'm concerned here is because the Aurora PD has basically let this go on to the point to where these folks are comfortable now. And they know where they can operate. They know how they can operate. they know what line to walk. So if there is corruption involved here, and if there is folks that are compromised at a higher level, they're going to know when to stand down, when to stand up, when to leave, when to come back, all this other stuff. What type of activity were these folks doing out of the apartment complex?
Oh, everything. There was drugs, prostitution. They were riding stolen motorcycles up in the building and hiding them in the apartments and then revving them up all night. These people, they prey on lower income people. So and these guys are all like in the best shape of their life. They're from 20 to 30 years old and they're carrying guns. The people that were renting there, they had no bulletproof vests to protect them like the police did. So when they got scared, they packed up everything and moved out. Luckily that they had the kind of money and resources to do that. There are so many that, not just this apartment building, because now we're getting reports from so many other apartment buildings that this is happening in. They just don't have the resources to move. And they're not to mention when they're preying on their own people, because there's so many other immigrants in these buildings who are getting preyed upon as well. And they don't have the resources. And there's no programs to help anybody but immigrants. So the people who were just paying their rent and doing what they were supposed to do, there's no program for us. So I just have to bang the table until it draws attention to it, because what choice do I have? I don't want someone else to be a victim as well.
Yeah, but absolutely, Cindy. I remember when your video went viral, because, I do have a lot of family in Colorado, and I consider that a home of mine. I even graduated high school from the state of Colorado and had several kids in Colorado. So again, it's a home of mine. And so I immediately became engaged in this story. And when I saw your video that went viral, very quickly thereafter, I saw a video of a lot of the Venezuelans in the area watching as you were moving out of the apartment. Now, how did this all happen? Did you drop the video and then become fearful of your life and you needed to get out? Or did somebody call you and say, we need to get you out of here?
That's what happened. I was standing outside waiting to speak to the police the morning after my friend was murdered. And I was waiting for the police to get up to me so they could, see my husband's car with the bullet holes. And
whoa. That was your friend?
He was one of the only ones that we spoke to, because he knew a little bit of English. And whenever he would see me, he would raise his hands and say, hey, my friend. And I would say, hey, my friend. And he would grab my groceries. He would take my trash off for me, stuff like that. So he was the one that was in that group of young men that were telling me and my husband that the guns were there to protect us, that we were all family there, and the guns were there to protect us. He was the one that they murdered. So while we're waiting for the police to come and speak to me, a Fox 31 reporter was standing out there, and I'd seen him out there for most of the morning. And he kept trying to get my attention and get me to come talk to him. And I didn't want to talk to him. I was so fed up and frustrated. Now I got bullet holes in my car and the police won't do anything. And I was talking to him and I'm like, I'm so mad. I can't get anyone to listen to me. And he's like, I will listen to you. And Vicente Arenas from Fox 31, he said, I will listen to you. Tell me your story. And I told him what was going on. And my husband showed him the video. And his mouth hit the floor. And he said, can I get a copy of that? And we were like, yes. And he's like, don't worry, I will not release it until you give me permission to. And my husband's like, well, we're looking for a place to move. Once we find a safe place to move, you can release the video. And we made that agreement. Vicente already knew about Danielle, her asking questions about this gang activity in another building off Nome Street. And she had been asking about it for a couple of weeks or months by that time. Unbeknownst to me, I didn't know that any of this was going on. I was just trying to keep my little one-bedroom apartment. I didn't realize that all this was going on just 2 miles down the road. But he contacted her, and once she seen the video, she asked for my number. He said he didn't have permission to give it to her, but he ended up getting permission from us to give it to her. And then she called me and she said, "Do you still live in these apartments?" I said, "Yeah, I'm sitting in that apartment right now." And she said, "I'm going to get you out of there." And I just broke down and cried, because after all these months and months and months of frustration and nobody listening to me and having all this evidence, but nothing was being done. And I'm still having to go in and out of these buildings while people are standing there with guns guarding me while I come in and out. It was terrifying, and we couldn't sleep, and it was torture, and we just could not take it anymore. And so when she told me she was going to help me, it just relieved so much burden from us, just trying over and over again just to try to get someone to believe us. It was so much of a stress to us. And within 10 days, we looked at several properties. Unfortunately, it took months. Before then, we had been looking. But for the next 10 days, we looked almost around the clock. Every free moment we could, we went to all these different properties near us, around us, to where it would still be convenient for us to get back and forth to our jobs. And we would go late at night to go check out these complexes to see what kind of element was there and was being overlooked by the police. And more and more and more of the properties had the same problem. Wow. People just standing around outside the property with guns. They're listening to loud music all night. If you try to approach any of them, they're intimidating. They're scaring you. You can't walk by them. You can't walk your pets or your kids by them. And we were just like, absolutely not. So I had to get completely far away. Like I'm 45 minutes right now from my work, where I used to be 15 minutes from work.
Unreal.
Yeah, it's
Mile High City. The Mile High City.
Yeah,
is under siege, and
it's not far enough. It's not far enough. I've been to Grand Junction. I've been to Vail. I've been to Glenwood Springs. I've been all through there, and it's not far enough. Every major highway is starting to see more and more pockets of these people turn up, and an increasing crime, whether it's being reported by the crime statistics correctly or not.
Do you see any improvement coming down range? Did President Trump deliver you, any news? Did he make any promises? Explain that.
He did promise to start here. If he gets elected, hopefully he'll get elected, and he will start here, and maybe start with these people who are committing these crimes and getting caught and then released over and over and over again back into our country, who are committing all these murders and robberies and killings. And it's ridiculous that it's been allowed to go on this long, but it's only going to get worse. There's no way to make it get better unless we do something about it. I feel like Donald Trump can do that.
So you are now at least living in a better place. It's not perfect, yes, but it's better.
It's so much better. Low income comes with a lot of its own challenges. I accept those challenges. I'm okay with that. It allows me to pay off some of my debt and spend some time with my grandchildren and not work to live so much of my life now that I'm older. But I welcome these challenges as opposed to people sitting outside of my door with guns, because my threshold with that is 1, and I had 6.
Look, low income or not, it doesn't matter. You are a human being, and you never forgot that you have a duty. You have civic duty, and it just goes to show that in the United States of America, anybody and everybody has a voice if you are willing to answer that call to service.
Mhm.
And you did just that. You are courageous. You set up cameras. You kept a watchful eye on your neighborhood. You kept a watchful eye on your neighbors. One that would end up having his life taken from these gang members that have infiltrated your neighborhood and your apartment complex. And now you are holding the keys. That video, that right there could be history. I'm getting goosebumps right now because that influenced a lot of hearts and minds of Americans from sea to shining sea, because they have Aurora in their own city now. You see what's going on all over the country right now, and they always show your videos because you were one of the first people to catch this fallout that we've had for the last 3 years and 10 months in this country of an open border. Now we're starting to see what's, the direct, actions of that.
Oh,
and
yeah.
to know that you have the video that could literally decide the fate of the next president of the United States of America is powerful. That is powerful. So you owe yourself a little pat on the back for that, because I tell you what, that you did your job and you answered your call to service. How does that make you feel, Cindy?
Well, I didn't want to be their victim.
Yeah.
And I feel like the more I interview, the more I bang the table, the more I shine the light, the less places they have to hide.
God bless your heart. Before we cut loose here, could you say the two people that helped move you out?
Oh, Danielle Jurinsky, Councilwoman Danielle Jurinsky, and hopefully our next congressman, John Fabbricatore.
Now, these individuals contacted you and said, we're going to get you out and we're going to help you?
Yeah, Danielle contacted John, and he gathered a bunch of his friends and a bunch of supporters that were already following this story, and they came together and they moved me out of my apartment of 4 years in about an hour and a half.
Unreal. Now, John Fabbricatore is running for Congress in your district,
Yes.
and he showed up, but your elected official, Jason Crow, did not show up, and he should have been there day one. And he should have been, at least a phone call, because at some point, you have your local PD, and then you have, your sheriffs, and then you have your state, and then you have federal. Mm-hmm. This to me seems more like a pretty drawn out federal case to me.
Yes. It doesn't seem like it should be the local cop's responsibility to fix a federal problem. This is an immigration problem. This isn't a city problem. It's beyond Aurora now. It's crazy in Texas now.
Yeah.
It's beyond Aurora. Now it's time for federal to come in and do something about it, because it's just getting worse.
I would have thought immediately,
you would think.
Because this is big stuff here, again, this is international.
And they knew for a year. Yeah. They knew for a year. And if any one of those police had at one point given me TDA information rather than, tell me that I should go to the media or tell me that I should seek out help from a nonprofit, if they had at any point said, this is probably a gang that has taken over the building 2 miles down the road also, I would have sold everything I own and got out of there as quick as possible before my friend was murdered, before my cars were shot up. I would have gotten out of there. And there would have been support from the community. The way this was covered up, and it's just coming out, the information and the evidence about it is trickling out, it makes it seem like I was the only victim, and I'm not. There's several. They're just too scared to come be on TV. I'm not scared. I was scared then. I'm not going to be scared anymore. Whether people support it or not, the truth is the truth, and it's not going to be covered up any longer.
And I think everything that you've said here is 100% on point. And you had mentioned earlier, look, I was a lifelong Democrat, but now I'm voting Republican. And I don't mean to bring politics into this because it's not about.
Oh, I'm definitely voting Republican.
Yeah, but this
I see the difference. Yeah, I see the difference. I never believed that there was a difference in the reporting. You couldn't have convinced me that before. Yeah. But once it happens to you and you see the way the left is covering it up and denying it and isolated incidents and limited to just a few complexes. And I'm telling you, my threshold is one armed person outside of my home. I don't know what their limit is, but it's not okay just because it happened to a poor person. It's not okay.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, and I'm with you 100%. And what happened should have never happened. Mm-hmm. And like I said, I wasn't asking political questions because it's political, but at some point. You got to ask yourself, this isn't politics anymore. No. This is real life. And these are the consequences of voting a certain way for a very long time and allowing this type of activity to happen.
Yes.
So what do we have to lose, right? To put Republican leadership back in place who are there for America first. What's wrong with taking care of Americans first before we take care of everybody else in the world? And
nothing. I agree. That's exactly what we should be doing rather than giving everything to the people who are literally coming here to take us over. These illegal people who are coming here committing crimes over and over and over again, it's like conquering us from the inside out.
What's President Trump really like?
He's very nice. He's very nice. I felt instantly at ease. And I was somebody that nobody would ever say was a Trump supporter. Let me say that. Nobody in my life would ever accuse me of being a Trump supporter. Okay. So this has affected so many people in my life, not believing that this is actually happening, that I would actually speak for this man. He's genuinely a nice man. And he shook my hands and he looked me in my eye and he said he was going to do something about this. And he promised me that if he got elected, he would do something about this. And I believe him. And it was so much different than the other pushback where I shook the mayor's hand and he apologized for everything that I've been through. And I looked in his eyes and I knew it wasn't sincere. I felt genuinely at ease with President Trump, and I'll never forget it. It was life-changing.
Well, I mean, not many people get to meet the President of the United States of America.
No,
right?
No, never. Or running or former.
Yeah.
This was never in my scope of anything that I thought was possible or anything that I thought was probable. I was just so far removed from politics until all this happened. And now I'm feeling like the need to get more involved in local politics and find out how these people are getting put into our communities and tracking and find a better way to track these crimes that aren't getting responded to.
Incredible. It makes these criminals want to operate there. They have zero. They know that they're not going to be touched. They're untouchable.
No, and they know that the response time is garbage because we've defunded the police in these sanctuary cities.
And all it takes is a one phone call from a corrupted or some guy at the sheriff's office or some guy at the local PD say, hey, they're coming, get out of there.
Mm-hmm. That's all it takes. Or even another pocket of criminals across town. Well, we're going to hit this jewelry store while they're over here covering this jewelry store and protecting this jewelry store. You can do whatever you want over here.
Have you seen or heard of any scuttlebutt in the area of more folks, say poor folks or low income earners in these apartment complexes that are changing their votes now from being lifelong Democrats to saying, you know what, I'm going to check the R this election?
Yeah, I think a couple of the people that used to live in my building are leaning towards Republican now. They don't see a Democratic plan. No one has come forth with any kind of plan to do anything about it. And Republicans are the only people who are actually acknowledging the problem. So I feel like a lot of people's minds are going to be changed this election. I know that my friend from Tennessee is 54 years old. He's never voted before in his life. And he's voting for Trump.
You have one opportunity right now to thank the two folks that helped you, the councilwoman and Mr. Fabbricatore. What would you like to tell them?
Oh, they know. They have my endless gratitude. I love these guys. I literally owe them my life. When I go to bed at night, I can sleep more than 4 hours because they helped me move out of that apartment where I was being tortured, and I owe them everything. And should they need anything from my vote to my children's vote, now that they live in Aurora, but I no longer do, they've got that. For as long as they live in Aurora. And should I ever come back to Aurora, they have my full support in anything.
Sure. Cindy, thank you so much for joining me today. You've really, you really painted a picture there. And it's a picture that needs to be known across the country and shared. Because I think it's very important this election season for people to understand that it will come to your doorstep.
Oh, yeah.
No matter where you live.
Yeah, it's just a matter of time. And I feel very bad for having to be the one who says that. But if you do not protect yourself now, it's not going to be very long before you're having the same problem that I was having. So you're not above it. It's there are break-ins happening in Boulder, break-ins happening in Southlands, reported crime in Texas, reported crime in Philadelphia and New York. This pattern of criminal behavior is not going to be stopped unless we do something about it. We have to be proactive.
I know a really good start would be to get John Fabbricatore in there, because I know with his background with ICE and Department of Homeland Security and security forces in the Air Force and the 26 years of honorable service he's given this country, he knows where to start and he knows how to tackle this problem.
I agree. And he's very knowledgeable about the patterns and the history where Jason Crow hasn't bothered to even probably be briefed on these gangs and their existence and their patterns. I just feel like we're safer with John Fabbricatore.
It's all about priorities. Safety, security, and sovereignty. The 3 S's right there are the main focus of a congressman. And if a congressman that is not doing that within the district that they are supposed to be governing for their constituents, I say, let's fire them and let's get some new blood in there.
I agree. John Fabbricatore was literally boots on the ground on my property where the gangs were. Jason Crow probably could not find it on a map. And it's in his district. It's in his area of responsibility. And he's dropped the ball.
Yeah. This isn't a Jason Crow bashing session, folks. What we're trying to say here is this is the woman. Her video went viral. It was all over the world, all over the United States, of the Transnational criminal organization out of Venezuela that came into her apartment complex. And she caught on video these folks with ARs and pistols and everything else. You would think, being a member of Congress in your district, you would say, whoa, I'm out of here. I got to go see what's going on. I got to talk to her, and I got to get a statement, and 2, I got to call Aurora PD. I got to call the governor, and we got to find out how we're going to nip this in the butt really quick, because if we don't, it's going to be like an inferno, and we're going to lose complete control of it. But it seems, again, as if these folks do not have their priorities straight, and that right there is what cost the life of your friend and your neighbor. And with that, Cindy, thank you so much for joining us today. Everything that you have done up until this point has not gone unnoticed.
Well, thank you so much. I do what I feel like everybody should.
Yes, ma'am. Well, listen, you have yourself a great evening.
Thank you. You as well.
Yes, and have a happy election season.
No, thank you. You too. Trump 2024.
Yes, ma'am.
Have a good day, honey.